Good morning, students. I hope all of you are good. Fine, everyone. Right. We are doing this video session after a long time. I hope you understand it. And if there is still anything which you are not able to understand, you can always let me know. Now, today we will be revising the Plaint of the Camel. Okay. We have already done this poem before. We will be revising the poem. Now, the plaint of the camel. What does the word plaint mean, students? Plaint is actually a sad cry made by someone. And over here, this cry is made by the camel. This poem has been written by Charles Edward Carroll. You can see the picture of the camel. I'm sure all of you must be familiar with this camel, isn't it? Now, something about the camel. The camel is a fascinating animal with special ability like going without food and water for long periods. Now, especially it is found in desert areas, students, because you need an animal which can go for a number of days without food, without water. And camel is fit for this. Camel is actually called as the ship of the desert. I'm sure you must be knowing about this as well. So this camel over here in this poem, in this beautiful poem, now despite being so useful, the camel complains regarding its food, dwelling place, about its features, etc. Now, something about the poet. Now you can see, Charles Edward Carroll was an American children's literature author, and he is very famous for his poems The Sleepy Giant and The Galloping Window Blind as well. We find that he has written a number of poems. Now, a little bit about the poem. Right. Now, the poem is written by Charles Edward Carroll and it is The Complaint of a Camel. It is quite a humorous piece because we find that through the camel, through the poet, the camel is complaining. Now, first it complains about the food given to it by comparing with others. Then it complains about the place where it sleeps. Then again it complains about the home which is given to it in comparison to the others. And it also complains about its looks. That means he even has a complaint towards, he is also complaining to God because he says that he is not at all happy with his looks. This is actually the very nature of human students. We never learn to appreciate what we have, what we will always keep, we will always keep complaining by comparing ourselves with others. There's a very old proverb, the grass is always green on the other side, right? So this poem is actually based on this, that the grass is always green on the other side. We always crib for what we don't have. Now let's see the meaning. Canary birds, we'll go stanza wise, students. Canary birds feed on sugar and seed. Parrots have crackers to crunch. And as for the poodles, they tell me the noodles have chickens and cream for their lunch. But there's never a question about my digestion. Anything does for me. Now here the camel says in the first stanza, it compares itself with the canary birds. What are canary birds? They are the small yellow birds which is kept as a pet in a cage. And the camel says that canary birds, they feed on sugar and seed. Imagine, such good food is given to them. They are given sugar and they are given seed. Parrots have crackers to crunch. Crackers are those dry biscuits which the parrots really like crunching them. And as for the poodles, that's the breed of a dog. So you see that they say that they have chicken and cream for their lunch. Imagine what a delicacy for them. But there's never a question about my digestion. Anything does for me. But when it comes to my food, because I can digest anything, because I don't crib for goodies, anything does for me. Nobody bothers to actually see what my choice is. Anything, whatever is available is given to me. Nobody bothers at all. Then in the second stanza, cats, you're aware, can repose in a chair. Repose means rest. Everybody knows that the cats can rest in a chair. If you have ever seen a cat, student, they always curl themselves very snugly, and they would sit and they will rest in a chair. Chicken can roost upon rails. Roost means roots are actually the place where they regularly sit and rest at night. So chickens, they roost, they rest upon the rails, and puppies are able to sleep in a stable, and oysters can slumber in pails. The small puppies, they are able to sleep in stables. Stable is the place where the horses are kept. But these small puppies, they can sleep even in that stable. They have a special place over there also. They can stay there. And oysters can sleep in buckets. But no one supposes a poor camel dozes, any place does for me. So he says that the camel says, for all these animals, whether it is a cat, it is chicken, or puppies, oyster, everyone has a place to sleep. But as far as a camel is concerned, the camel can doze off any place, right? Any place is okay for the camel. Then in the third stanza, lambs are enclosed where it's never exposed. Now what are lambs? Lambs are the young sheeps. So lambs are enclosed because lambs are actually kept in an enclosure, students, to protect them from wild animals, right? Otherwise, the wild animals, they hunt them, they kill them. So lambs are always kept in an enclosure where it's never exposed. They are never visible to the, you can say, to these wild animals, and they are all very safe. Coops are constructed for hens. Coops are the home for the, you can say, home for the hens. So coops are constructed for hens. Kittens are treated to houses well heated, and pigs are protected by pens. Kittens, what to say, because kittens are kept in the house. Kittens are domesticated. Kittens are always in the house. They don't go out and sleep anywhere. They sleep snugly in a chair itself, in the warmth of the house. They stay in the house itself. And pigs are protected by pens. Pigs also have a place to stay, the pens. But a camel comes handy wherever it's sandy. Anywhere does for me. But he says that despite I'm the most useful one in the desert, because all these animals, they can't survive the desert. It's only me who can survive. But anywhere does for me. That means wherever there is sand, there is stretches of sand, the camel is left to relax anywhere. Right? It is said that the camel says, nobody bothers about me. Where I am going to sleep. Nobody bothers at all. People would laugh if you rode a giraffe or mounted the back of an ox. Now in the fourth stanza, he complains about how people use it. Use him. Use it means how people use the camels. And he says, people would actually laugh if somebody rode a giraffe. No, have you ever seen anybody riding a giraffe? Nobody rides any giraffe. Or mounted the back of an ox. Nobody mounts an ox either. Nobody rides an ox. It's nobody's habit to ride on a rabbit or try to bestraddle a fox. Nobody rides on rabbit. Nobody rides on a fox either. But as for a camel, he's ridden by families. Any load does for me. So he says that nobody bothers riding all these animals. But as far as the camel is concerned, yes, the camel is free for all. And the whole family is going to ride on me. Any load does for me, whether the person is a heavy load or whether the person is a very light load, and whether the just one person is sitting on it or maybe more than one is riding the camel. Any load does for me, carries all the loads. In the last, it complains about its features. A snake is as round as a hole in the ground, and weasels are wavy and sleek, and no alligator could ever be straighter than lizards that live in a creek. So he says that even the weasels and are wavy and sleek, a snake, all these have very sleek body. And no alligator could ever be straighter than lizards that live in a creek. As far as the alligator and the lizards are concerned, they also have a very synchronized body. They have a very sleek body. But a camel's all lumpy and bumpy and humpy. Any shape does for me. So he says that he is actually, in a way, he's also telling to God that even God has been biased, in making him. God has made him such lumpy, bumpy, and humpy. Any shape does for me. He says that maybe even God never bothered when he made me. He made me all lumpy and bumpy. Look at all the other animals. They have such sleek body. It's only me which is humpy and bumpy, and any shape does for me. So in a way, he has complaints about everything. So now what do we understand by the theme? The poor camel. See, while most creatures are prized, pampered, or at least tended to, so camel is actually treated as the beast of burden. And the theme is also humor, because we find the way the poet makes the camel complain almost about everything is actually very, very humorous, right? Then the poem follows a certain rhyme scheme, students. If you see, rhyme, I suppose everybody understands. The rhyme scheme is the pattern of rhymes that at the end of each line of a poem or song. Like canary birds feed on sugar and seed. See, feed and seed, the sound is the same, so they rhyme. Parrots have crackers to crunch, and as for the poodles, they tell me the noodles. So you realize that, the rhyming pattern is there. Feed and seed, poodles and noodles, crunch and lunch. So the pattern which is followed is AA, B, CC, and then D, B. So likewise, it's not that you need to be very careful about the rhyme scheme over here, because we don't follow the rhyme pattern. But you should be aware that yes, the poem also follows a rhyme pattern, right? Now, sound word is crunch. Do you remember, students, we did onomatopoeic words when we were doing God Save the Beetle? Yes, this is another word, crunch. The moment you write crunch, the sound comes. So it's actually a sound word, crunch. If you remember, we had earlier done splash, zoom. Those were again the sound words, okay? So this is the sound word, crunch. Now, what do we understand by the moral? The poet tells the reader the virtues of being good and successful. And the poet is also telling us the reason why we suffer from insecurities, because we always compare ourselves with others. Instead of comparing ourselves, students, we should remind ourselves that we can never be any other person. What we can be is always a better version of ourselves. And we all know that comparison is the thief of joy. It takes away the joy. If you are always comparing yourself with somebody else, you will always be sad, because there will always be something which you are not. There will always be something which others have and you don't have. But if a person is happy and satisfied, then of course the person can always be a better version of oneself. This is what the poet has tried to speak from the point of view of the camel. But the camel has always been complaining, right? It has always been complaining that it does not have a house, it does not have a proper place to sleep, it does not feed on good food, or that, the looks are also very bad. He is quite biased about everything, and he says that everyone has been biased against him. But what he does not realize is that he is actually a very, very useful animal. Very, very useful animal. So one should always remember that instead of comparing ourselves with others, we need to appreciate ourselves, and we should show gratitude and compassion and try to be gentle with oneself. Right? So yes, after this you have the entire poem, something which we just explained. You can go through the PPT. I will be sharing this with you. Okay? And if there is any question, you can always let me know. Thank you.